Hey guys, welcome to Boxing Squared for boxing news and views from around the internet. It looks like the next opponent for heavyweight contender Joseph Parker will be the former title challenger Mariusz Wach of Poland, who's claimed to Polish television that he has accepted the fight, although yet to do the paperwork. So Wach once competed for a title all the way back in 2012 against Wladimir Klitschko, comfortably beaten in that one. In more recent years, he has rather been a high-level gatekeeper of sorts, faded and past prime, well past prime, 40 years old, 4 losses on the resume since 2017, losses to Jarrell Miller, Mariusz Wach, Martin Bakole in 2019, and that was a bad loss, and also most recently to Dillian Whyte. So he's told Polish television, "I said yes, we are waiting for documents to be signed, I will sign and send it back, I want to hurt him." Now, if this fight is made, and I'll get to a couple of thoughts on this in a bit in terms of the matchup and how I think it would pan out, I mean, we just have to temper expectations about, is this actually a done deal at this point? Because, I mean, often a number of offers go out to respective fighters and the paperwork has to get signed before we can actually say it's actually done. But Wach saying, you know, he's accepted verbally at least, that is a good sign, but it may not necessarily be him. I'm reminded of a couple of instances recently where Joe DeWeco had accepted fights and sort of said publicly, yeah, I'm ready to sort of sign on the dotted line, but ultimately the Matchroom, which is the same outfit that promotes Joseph Parker, went in a different direction for respective fighters. So, yeah, on the basis that it will be Mariusz Wach, though, we'll talk about that. Is this a great fight? No, not really. But in some ways, this is the sort of fight that Joseph Parker needs. Mariusz Wach, albeit 40 and faded, still one of the best chins in the division. He can importantly give Joseph Parker rounds. And for anyone who says Joseph Parker is going to come in here and knock Mariusz Wach out, yeah, I'm skeptical of that. I don't think that's going to happen. We actually saw Mariusz Wach against Dillian Whyte just back in December. And that's probably what's kept Mariusz Wach in the conversation for these sort of, you know, tune-up fights, because he came better than advertised against Dillian Whyte, who went in there, who was overweight, out of shape, and he made Mariusz Wach look better than Wach really is at this point in his career. That was a fight more about Whyte's lack of preparation rather than, you know, any improvements from Wach at his sort of advanced, you know, boxing career age of 40. So if the fact that he's in the mix for Parker at this point is, even albeit for a tune-up fight, you know, that probably he should be thanking Dillian Whyte for coming in out of shape, because this will not be a good fight. Joseph Parker will come into this in shape. He'll look fast, he'll look slick, but he won't be able to get Wach out of there. I'm not predicting a stoppage at all. And if there is a stoppage, it won't be because Parker knocks him out, because I don't see that happening at all over 10 rounds or even 12 if it was a championship level fight. It would be a case of Wach with an injury or having to retire on a stool or something like that, rather than being battered into submission. Although I think Joseph Parker will pretty much get most of what he wants in a fight with Mariusz Wach. At this point, Joseph Parker, prime of his career, he stayed in shape. You know, recent sort of footage and photos of Parker, you know, from training camp, because he's in Las Vegas at the moment preparing for that card he'll appear on at the end of February, which is the Mikey Garcia and Jesse Vargas card in Texas. You know, he is going to come in there in good condition. I've no doubt about that. He's being more disciplined at this point in his career, as he should be, as a professional, as a guy who's looking to vie for another heavyweight title shot. I think for this fight, the best thing that Joseph Parker will get from it, and it's not going to be a stoppage, is rounds, because he's been so inactive in the past 18 months or so. Just one fight in 2019, that was against Alex Leapai. I think it'll be a similar sort of situation. Joseph Parker will go in there, start fast, he'll look good, but then he'll start to button off once he realizes he's not getting through. And they always talk about when they've been, you know, recent training camps, they're working on this power, and we've been hearing this for a couple of years, but never really seen it translate into a performance, even against lower level fighters like Alex Leapai. He sort of lets his hands go, puts everything into it, and doesn't really seem to rock his opponent. So I think it'll be a very sort of almost carbon copy sort of performance to the Leapai one, where he'll come out, start fast, look good, basically get anything that he wants to, but Wach will be able to weather the storm and even throw a few punches back of his own, although I don't see him winning many, if any, rounds at all against Joseph Parker. I think it's going to be a much more lopsided performance than the Dillian Whyte one, but as I mentioned, I think that came down to Whyte coming in, grossly out of shape and in a condition he really shouldn't have been in against any fighter, let alone Mariusz Wach, who made Whyte look bang average at times in that fight. But I don't think Parker will give the same opportunities, and his speed, his movement is going to be too much for Mariusz Wach. But rounds is the most important thing because he hasn't been active. The last real fight that Joseph Parker was in terms of a hard, competitive, tough fight was in July 2018 against Dillian Whyte. He's had a tune-up fight later in that year in 2018 against Alexander Flores and the Leopai fight in mid-2019. So just 2 fights since his last proper stiff test in the heavyweight division. And Mariusz Wach, make no mistake, this is another tune-up fight. I'm not having any of it from David Higgins talking about how competitive this is and former title challenger. Wach is a husk of a husk at this point. And if anyone wants to say that he's having a career renaissance because of that Whyte performance where he, looked better than he really is, I'm not having it either. That was down to Whyte and his preparations that made Wach look better than he is. So Joseph Parker, Mariusz Wach, not a great fight. It's a tune-up. Let's, call it for what it is. Hopefully we're not going to get too much of, this is a tough test. This is he's got to go in there, look good and get a, clean sweep of the rounds and really make people believe that, when he does face someone like an Alexander Usyk, for example, if he does for a vacant WBO title or at a similar level against someone else, he's got to show that he can go 10 at a good clip and look good in the process. Let's not talk knockouts because I think we've, at this point in Joseph Parker's career, that's not who he is. And the talk of power and developing more of it, I think until we've, have some proof of that, he's going to be a guy who gets decisions in the heavyweight division. But Wach, Parker, in the works by the look of it. Drop a comment, loud and often. Hit like, hit subscribe, follow me on Twitter. Boxing_squared. I'm out.